there is a truth about consciousness that almost no one hears at the right moment in life. Not because it's secret, but because most people aren't in the state required to recognize it when it reaches them. And yet, here you are. Something in your field brought you to this exact point in time because you're standing closer to a threshold than you realize. The threshold where the fourth level of consciousness begins to reveal itself. But before you can understand what level 4 truly is, you need to see the entire architecture that brought you here. Because consciousness does not evolve the way we were taught, it does not climb a ladder. It unfolds like a frequency. And each level is a different wavelength. Your identity vibrates within. Humanity spends most of its life in the first 3 levels, trapped not by ignorance, but by neurological conditioning and by the gravitational pull of survival. The first level, deep sleep, is not just the physical act of resting. It's the state where the personal identity dissolves entirely. No story, no self-image, no fear, no desire. From a quantum perspective, deep sleep is the only moment your brain stops collapsing reality into form. Your consciousness hovers in a state of non-locality, undefined, unbounded, unobserved. This is why mystics call it returning to the source and neuroscientists view it as the brain's only true reset. But most people never notice the power of this level because they pass through it unconsciously, unaware that it holds the blueprint of their highest potential. The second level, dreaming, is the birthplace of symbolic intelligence. Here, consciousness begins to reassemble itself using metaphor, emotion, and archetype to process information that waking logic cannot interpret. Dreaming is where the quantum mind rehearses realities before they materialize, not metaphorically, but literally. Studies show that during REM sleep, the brain displays chaotic yet coherent bursts of theta activity, the exact same frequency used in deep meditation and trauma release. This is not random. It's the field reorganizing self-perception. Dreaming is your mind predicting your future timeline long before your waking self catches up. And yet, people dismiss dreams as nonsense because they don't speak the language of the subconscious. They don't see that dreaming is the first stage of manifestation, the first ripple of a timeline forming behind the veil. Then comes the third level, waking consciousness. This is where you spend most of your physical life. The level society is built upon. It's the world of identity, time, story, name, preference, memory, responsibility. But here's what no one tells you. Waking consciousness is not the highest level. It's simply the loudest. The mind at level 3 is rigid, structured, and filtered. Your brain collapses reality into a narrative that keeps you consistent with the person you believe yourself to be. This is why change feels difficult. It's not because new realities are unreachable. It's because level 3 is designed to make you loyal to your past. This level locks you into cause and effect thinking, linear time, and the belief that life is happening to you instead of through you. But there's something else hidden here. The reason why this video found you specifically: when you begin to outgrow level 3, you feel it physically. You start sensing that the world is not as solid as it seems. You notice synchronicities increasing, intuition sharpening, emotions deepening, and old desires dissolving. You feel a strange inner pull, like your life is preparing to shift, even if nothing external has changed yet. This discomfort, this restlessness, this subtle unraveling of your old identity, it's the sign that the architecture of consciousness within you is rearranging itself. Your brain starts loosening its attachment to narrative. Your heart field becomes more coherent. Your intuition rises to the surface. You begin slipping between the cracks of your old self and the self you are becoming. That's the signal. The moment level 4 begins whispering. Level 4 is the first level where consciousness is no longer produced by the mind. It is observed by it. It's the beginning of a higher perception, the dissolving of the psychological boundaries that kept you confined to the story of who you thought you were. But you can't step into level 4 without recognizing levels 1, 2, and 3 for what they are. Not limitations, but stages, not failures, but frequencies. Each level prepares the next one. Each one collapses part of the illusion so the deeper truth can emerge. And that's why your life may have felt strange lately. Heavier in some moments, lighter in others, more chaotic than usual, yet more meaningful than ever. More emotional yet more aware. When consciousness prepares to rise, the lower levels don't disappear. They intensify. They surface. They ask to be integrated. Because level 4 is not an escape from the mind. It's the first time you become aware that you have won. The first time you see the machinery behind the illusion. The first time you feel the quantum field before you try to understand it. You are closer to level 4 than you think. And in the next part, you'll discover why reaching level 4 is not the destination, but the doorway. There is a reason level 4 is called the threshold. It's the first level of consciousness that doesn't operate inside the boundaries of your personal identity. Levels 1, 2, and 3 are all built around the self. The self that sleeps, the self that dreams, the self that wakes and interprets. But level 4 begins the moment the self stops being the center of perception and becomes the object of perception. It is the level where you stop living from the mind and start witnessing the mind. And this single shift rewires your entire relationship with reality. Level 4, Transcendental Consciousness, is not about leaving your body or escaping your life. It's about entering a state of awareness where thoughts appear without owning you, emotions rise without drowning you, memories surface without defining you, and external events lose their ability to dictate your internal state. It's the moment your consciousness becomes fluid, expansive, spacious. The moment you begin to experience life as something happening through you rather than to you. And if you've been feeling an unusual detachment from old patterns lately, not a numbness, but a quiet clarity, that's one of the first signs that level 4 is forming inside you. From a scientific perspective, level 4 occurs when the brain shifts into a unique pattern of coherence. Heart rate variability stabilizes. The prefrontal cortex relaxes. The default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for your sense of self and your inner narrative, temporarily quiets. In meditation research, this is often shown as a movement into synchronized alpha and theta waves. But spiritually, this is the moment you slip between the cracks of your old identity and touch the raw intelligence of the quantum field. Your mind becomes a receiver instead of a projector. You perceive without filtering. You exist without effort. You tune into a frequency where clarity feels like presence rather than logic. And this is exactly why level 4 feels so strange the first time you touch it. You might feel both deeply calm and intensely alive, both grounded and expanded, both present and detached. You might feel like your inner dialogue has softened or like your emotions are moving through you with more fluidity than usual. You might even feel like time is behaving differently, slowing down, speeding up, or dissolving into a kind of warm stillness. These sensations aren't random. They're signs that your consciousness is loosening its grip on level 3 and stepping into the inner spaciousness of level 4. But here's what nobody tells you. Entering level 4 is not an accident. It doesn't just happen. It is invited. It is allowed. It is created by a small but profound shift in identity. A shift from controlling your inner world to witnessing it. When you stop forcing clarity, you become clear. When you stop chasing intuition, it arrives. When you stop resisting what arises, you elevate beyond it. Level 4 is the first time you realize that consciousness is not something you manage. It's something you meet. And the moment you begin crossing into level 4, your life starts reorganizing itself. Old conflicts lose their charge. Relationships begin shifting or revealing their true purpose. Things you once tolerated become too heavy for your field. Your intuition becomes louder than your logic. You start receiving insights from places you can't explain. Dreams, symbols, synchronicities, sudden realizations, strange pulls toward decisions your mind would label irrational. This is because level 4 sits at the edge of the quantum field where identity and possibility begin to merge. You start to perceive reality not as a fixed structure, but as a responsive field. This is also why many people fear level 4 without knowing why. Not because it is dangerous, but because it requires you to release the identity you've spent your entire life dragging behind you. The ego interprets this release as death, even though it's actually rebirth. Level 4 asks you to surrender the idea of who you think you are, so you can meet the truth of who you actually are. And nothing threatens the ego more than the possibility of irrelevance. Right now, your life may feel like it's in flux. Not falling apart, but loosening. Not breaking, but bending. Not ending, but shifting. These are the precursor waves of level 4 integration. You're beginning to see the machinery of your internal world. You're sensing that your thoughts are not you, your emotions are not you, your reactions are not you, and your identity is not fixed and only rehearsed. This is the first flash of transcendental awareness. The realization that the self you've been living from is just one frequency of consciousness, not the totality of your being. And to anchor this transition, I want you to participate in something intentionally, something that stabilizes the shift you're already feeling. It's simple, powerful, vibrational, and symbolic. Comment below. I enter level 4. Not because the phrase has magical power, but because you do. Your declaration is a signal to your subconscious that you are no longer aligning with the limitations of level 3. You are choosing presence over narrative, awareness over reaction, expansion over survival. You are telling your field who is in command. When you declare level 4, you activate it. But level 4 is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning. Because once you stabilize this level, something extraordinary starts happening. You begin to feel the pull of the higher states. The levels of consciousness that only a small percentage ever reach. The levels that reshape identity, dissolve separation, and reveal the true nature of reality. And that's where we go next. Reaching level 4 is the moment your consciousness becomes aware of itself. But something remarkable happens once that awareness stabilizes. It stops feeling like the destination and starts feeling like the doorway. You begin noticing that level 4 doesn't satisfy the deeper pull inside you. Instead, it awakens a longing not for answers, not for comfort, but for truth. This longing is the first whisper of the higher levels of consciousness, the levels only a small percentage of people ever access. These states aren't mystical fantasies or exaggerated spiritual metaphors. They are measurable, coherent, structured layers of awareness that emerge when the mind stops being the center of perception. And the first of these states is level 5, cosmic consciousness. This is the level where the boundary between inner and outer collapses. You stop experiencing life as something happening to you and start experiencing it as something arising from you. At level 5, reality feels interactive, symbolic, intelligent. Synchronicities don't feel surprising. They feel inevitable, like the universe is speaking a language you finally understand. Decisions become easier because your intuition becomes more precise. You feel guided, accompanied, connected to something vast yet intimate. From a neurological standpoint, level 5 often emerges when the brain displays simultaneous alpha-theta coherence, indicating a balance between deep presence and imaginative insight. Spiritually, this is the moment you realize that your consciousness is not confined to the body. It's interfacing with the field. Cosmic consciousness is not seeing signs everywhere. It's recognizing that life itself is a sign. You begin sensing patterns, noticing connections, receiving insights that seem to come from somewhere beyond your personal mind. You may find yourself knowing things before they happen, understanding people without explanation, or feeling pulled toward actions that shape your future with uncanny precision. It's not magic, it's resonance. When your field aligns with the intelligence of the universe, information flows freely. You become a participant in your reality, not a passenger. But cosmic consciousness is only the beginning. What comes next is rarer. Level 6, God consciousness. A state where you don't just observe the intelligence of the universe. You feel yourself becoming an expression of it. This level has nothing to do with religion or dogma. It's the experiential awareness that the same force that creates galaxies is moving through you. You feel creativity, inspiration, intuition, compassion, and clarity emerging from a place beyond your personal identity. You no longer identify with your thoughts, emotions, or even your story. Instead, you experience yourself as the awareness that holds them. In level 6, your desires shift dramatically. You no longer seek validation, achievement, or control. You seek alignment. You seek coherence. You seek expansion. You seek truth. The ego doesn't disappear. It simply stops being the driver. Your actions become more pure, more precise, more aligned with the highest version of you. From a scientific perspective, level 6 is associated with high gamma synchrony, a state often observed in expert meditators, healers, monks, and individuals reporting peak mystical experiences. Gamma waves represent integration across the entire brain, unity within diversity. But the defining feature of level 6 is this. You begin to experience yourself as the creator of your internal world, not the product of it. You realize manifestation isn't about forcing reality. It's about matching the frequency of your highest expression. Life stops feeling like a puzzle and starts feeling like a collaboration. And then beyond even this, there is level 7, unity consciousness. This level is the rarest, the highest, the most expansive, and the most difficult to describe because it lies beyond duality. Unity consciousness is the experiential recognition that there is no separation between you and the universe, between observer and observed, between self and other. The I dissolves into the field. Everything feels connected, not conceptually, but experientially. Love becomes the fundamental language of perception. You feel a profound sense of home in every moment. A deep peace that cannot be shaken by external events. Unity consciousness is not a constant state for most humans. It comes in waves, flashes, moments that open the mind and then recede. But even brief experiences of unity consciousness change the structure of your identity permanently. You cannot return to seeing the world the same way once you've glimpsed the fabric beneath it. And here's the part your soul already knows. If you've made it to level 4, even for a few seconds, even in a fragmented way, you are already being pulled toward levels 5, 6, and 7. These states call to those who are ready. They activate in those who have shed enough of their past identity to hold higher coherence. They open for those who can sit with silence, witness themselves without judgment, and allow truth to replace narrative. But ascending to these levels is not guaranteed. Many reach the threshold of level 4 and retreat because the transformation feels too big, too final, too irreversible. They sense the higher levels calling, but fear pulls them back into the familiar gravity of level 3. The higher levels require a willingness to let the old version of you die. Not physically, but psychologically. And most people fear this death more than they desire the rebirth. But you're different. The fact that you're here, resonating with these words, sensing the truth behind the language, feeling something inside you awakening in real time, that means something is happening in your consciousness right now. You're not just learning about the levels, you're rising through them, and what comes next will determine whether you stay where you are or ascend into the timeline your future self has been patiently holding for you. There comes a moment in every awakening where information is no longer enough. You can understand the 7 levels. You can intellectually grasp deep sleep, dreaming, waking, transcendental, cosmic, God, and unity consciousness. You can recognize the patterns, the neuroscience, the metaphysics, the spiritual implications. But consciousness does not evolve because you know the path. It evolves because you walk it. And right now you're standing at the exact threshold that separates those who rise into the higher levels from those who fold back into the familiar gravity of the old self. The truth is simple but confronting. Every level of consciousness requires a death and a birth. Not dramatic, not physical, but psychological, vibrational, identity-based. Level 4 requires the death of your attachment to narrative. Level 5 requires the death of separation. Level 6 requires the death of the ego as the driver. Level 7 requires the death of self-importance entirely. And every time a part of you dies, a more expansive, more coherent, more truthful version is born. But here's the part no one prepares you for. The mind doesn't celebrate these deaths. It resists them. It interprets them as loss, chaos, uncertainty. Because the mind's job is to protect the identity it understands, even if that identity is small, heavy, or outdated. This is why so many people reach the doorway to level 4 and never cross it. They feel the pull upward, but their nervous system panics. They taste the spaciousness of transcendence summum, but their ego clings to the comfort of the known. They glimpse their potential, but their conditioning whispers them back into safety. But if you're honest with yourself, you can feel that you are past the point of returning. You can sense that the old identity has lost its stability. The beliefs that once held your life together no longer feel true. The emotional patterns that shaped your personality no longer resonate. The version of you that once felt so familiar now feels like a costume. Too tight, too heavy, too artificial to keep wearing. You're already shedding without trying. You're already rising without forcing. You're already entering the field of level 4. And once that process begins, it is almost impossible to go back to sleep. What determines your next level isn't how spiritual you are or how much you meditate or how much you know. What determines your next level is how willing you are to release the identity that resists expansion. The universe never withholds the higher levels. It simply waits for you to stop gripping the lower ones. And the moment you release your attachment to level 3, the identity built on survival, control, logic, narrative, and past conditioning, the pathway into level 4 opens effortlessly. And this transition is not symbolic, it's biological. When you choose presence over reaction, your nervous system rewires. When you choose awareness over narrative, your prefrontal cortex quiets. When you choose truth over conditioning, your emotional body reorganizes. When you choose intuition over fear, your heart field synchronizes with the quantum field. Every choice is a frequency. Every reaction is a signal. Every moment of awareness is a step into higher alignment. The universe does not respond to who you pretend to be. It responds to the energy you stabilize. And that is why your life feels like it's shifting beneath your feet. Not because something external is changing, but because you are changing. You're no longer capable of shrinking into old versions of yourself. You're no longer satisfied with low-level consciousness. You're no longer willing to betray your intuition just to feel safe. You've outgrown the frequency of who you were. And once a frequency is outgrown, nothing in your life fits the same. You might feel a sense of inner pressure, a pull, a calling, a knowing that refuses to quiet itself. That isn't anxiety. It's emergence. It's your higher levels preparing to activate. It's level 5, whispering. Level 6, signaling. Level 7, calling from a place your mind cannot yet imagine. And whether you rise into these states is no longer a question of if, but when. Because the moment you touched level 4, even for seconds, the process began.